please rise for his worship for the Mayor and the Deputy Mayor.
Good evening. Please be seated. Good evening, members. Very nice to be here. I may have to apologise as I go on through the evening. I do actually have a sore throat. Like all evening competitions today, though, I bought my equipment, my strips.
I hope they're better. I hope they work better.
All part of the kit. Thank you very much. Right. Minutes of the last meeting. Oh, I missed the apologies. Yes, I'm so sorry. Do you have a list of apologies, Brad?
Yes, thank you, Mayor. We have apologies from councillors Emma Hobbs, Barry Patman, Ruth Clark, David Lee, Kate Haynes, Bill Toe, Ken Myhill, Anthony Pollock, Paul Swaddle, and John Jarvis.
Are there any more? Yes, but
Well, Karen Clark, obviously.
good job we're here then, isn't it? Good job we're here. By the way, members, again, I just remind you, I'm sure you're all very well aware, but this meeting is being filmed by our resident cameraman over there, Stuart Turkington. So you are on camera, members and members of the public. We now will go to the minutes, which are displayed in the agenda and pages 17 onwards. So could I call for your agreement to those minutes? Please, done. Thank you very much. Are there any amendments? Anybody? No? Okay. Declarations of interest. I think actually we have quite a number this evening regarding a motion which is later in the agenda. And I would like to take those declarations right now, please. So if you've got a declaration of interest for the later motion, would you please show now? Thank you. And keep that arms up because we've got a lot of it. Okay. I'm told each individually. Okay. You actually have to say why you have why you are making a declaration of interest. So, and same hands back up and please say. Please. Tom.
I have a declaration of interest in motion item 400 as I am non-executive director of Optimus Holding Company Limited.
Thank you. David.
I have a similar declaration of interest in that I'm a non-executive director of Berry Brook Homes.
Okay, Gary.
The same for me with Bottom Hole Limited.
Same for me, Mr. Mayor, working for Holdings.
Philip?
Yes, I'm on the Berkshire Fire Authority and also Deputy Town Councillor.
I'm a non-executive director of Wokingham Housing Limited and also on the Royal Berkshire Fire Authority.
I'm a non-executive director of Optalis and also a deputy executive.
representative on the Fire Authority.
Mr. Ross?
A member of the Royal Berkshire Fire Authority and a member of the Planning Committee.
Okay, did we get everybody? Everybody agrees? Yeah? Thank you very much.
Could I just make a non-declaration in that although I'm a deputy executive member and also on one of the boards of the companies, I voluntarily did not take one of those 2 allowances.
You only take one, I see. Okay, thank you. Slight break then, Yes, Mayor, I wasn't intending to vote or declare an interest, but I'm on the planning committee and I'm also non-executive director of London Home, so I also speak for that. Thank you very much. And if any more? Thank you very much, members. Right, public question time. And we've got lots of members of the public here I can see. And because of the number of questions we have, I'm going to propose that we actually extend the public question time to 45 minutes from the normal 30 minutes. So that is my proposal. Do I have a seconder? JK will second that. Those in favour, please show. Right, that's excellent. They can now give members of the public an opportunity really to ask their questions and take answers from members. I will ask those members that are going to ask the questions. Be brief. Could I ask you, as you ask your question, rather than reading the whole question out, if you would say, can I ask the question standing in my name, that will save an awful lot of time and will enable every member of the public to get their question, which I'm keen to do. But I also ask the executive members in answering to use a brevity where possible. And the first question is David Hare. I think I've seen him somewhere. There he is. David, good evening. Would you like to ask your question?
I'd like to ask the question standing in my name.
Okay, thank you very much, sir. And I think that is for Councillor Bowden.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Good evening.
Good evening.
Thank you, David, for your question. The footpath is due to reopen by the 25th of November at the latest. I have already informed Hillside members and they are keen to inform their residents of this fact.
Do we have a supplementary, David?
Yes, thank you. Residents haven't been given much information about the closure of this pathway, and there was a lack of signs letting people know where the path was closed and how they could get around it. Do you agree that the council could have done a better job communicating with the residents?
I'm not too familiar with the what diversions were put in. I'll have to look into that and get back to you.
Thank you very much. Mr. Peter Humphreys, question for
Mine's short for once. When the new shopping centres recently opened in Bratton and Oxford, approximately 25% of the units were vacant. To date, only one retail unit has been pre-let in both Peach Place and Elmsfield. What can be perceived as a lack of confidence in the Elmsfield development has been demonstrated by Wetherspoons, a business one would assume to be in a position to benefit due to its location at the gateway to that scheme, approaching to the town centre, announced its closing next year. To make matters worse, the council's grand idea was to have flagship businesses at either end of the town centre to encourage footfall in smaller units when shoppers walk from one to the other. The closure of M&S has wrecked that plan. Taking all these factors into consideration, when will the council be announcing that the Elmsfield scheme has been abandoned and that the £80 million is not going to be gambling a white elephant?
Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'll take this.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Peter. At the point at the start on site in Bracknell, only Phoenix, Marks and Spencer's and H&M were exchanged together with the cinema and a number of restaurants. M&S then opened early on 27th of July with the official opening on the 7th of September. And as of today, they're at 95% let. Similarly, when construction commenced on Westgate Oxford, a 100-unit scheme, the only legally committed occupier was the John Lewis Partnership. The scheme opened to the public on the 23rd of October with 65% of units open and a further 20% exchanged. It's understood that a number of the other stores are now under offer, particularly as they're opening tomorrow. That's pretty useful. Bracknell and Oxford highlight that only the large format operators are willing to commit to pre-lets 12 months and more in advance of opening. Occupiers increasingly only commit to pre-lets at the earliest 9 months prior to the opening, as demonstrated in the leasing of the programme of both Bracknell and Oxford. The council is targeting a blend of smaller format, high-end retailers and local operators for Beach Place. Positive negotiations are ongoing with a number of retailers, and the council is encouraged by the levels of interest. It is recognised that the target occupiers will only commit closer to the opening, and the council do remain committed to this strategy, as we believe that the quality and type of retail will be critical to creating the town that we expect. We do not believe the scheme represents a gamble, and instead offers a good commercial investment. Elms Field has already secured contractual commitments from Premier Inn, Everyman Cinema and Aldi, which account for 65% of the projected Elms Field income, with construction due to commence in January next year, and a phase scheme opening across to the end of 2019 and early 2020. Once again, further occupiers will not commit to pre-lets at this stage. Weatherspoons have been undertaking the rationalisation of their estate across the entire UK over the last 12 to 18 months, and it's understood that the decision to close the gig house is part of the wider corporate strategy. The M&S store provided limited... Sorry? Yes, just last piece, M&S. The M&S store provided a limited food and general merchandise offer, and by comparison to a full-line store, it was questionable whether it was fulfilling an anchor role. Whilst regrettable, the closure provides an opportunity to secure other operators for this end of the town, which could make a better use of the space and draw people back to Walsingham. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
I do. It's reassuring that you do actually have some optimism about the plans down at Elms Field. But at the other end of the town, we've not heard anything as what's going to happen to the M&S site. Is there actually a plan, or is it just bought on a whim?
Thank you very much. Could you take that, Councillor?
Well, I think I've just answered that essentially. There are a number of options there, and further announcements will come in due course.
Before we move on, members, could I just remind the questioners, you don't have to read the question out before you. Just ask the question standing in your name. You'll get the same answer, I do promise. So the next is Graham Robertson.
Yeah, hi. Basically, to answer my question, since my question was asked, the council has put 4 disabled spaces slightly nearer the gym, but still too far away, and the access for resting places is still not right. So the rest of the questions in my name.
Who's taking that?
If you don't mind us about, we'll answer the original question as it's in the public domain.
Yep.
Mr. Robson, thank you for your question. Disabled access and parking are and have been an important element in the detailed planning for the Carnival redevelopment. However, your comments make it clear to us that the current arrangements are not suitable for all of our residents with disabilities. The disabled parking spaces you refer to that were recently removed were temporary spaces to allow disabled access to the leisure centre while the multi-storey car park was under construction. As the car park is now complete, the temporary spaces have been removed. We've identified a location to provide some additional disabled parking spaces that you referred to on a temporary basis while the existing leisure centre is demolished and the second phase of the development is built. We are currently arranging for the spaces to be marked, which should then improve accessibility for disabled users. The Carnival Leisure Centre redevelopment includes a pedestrianised area with 2 coach parking spaces and an area for emergency services. It was decided during the master planning of the site that the overall best solution regarding access was for the disabled parking spaces to be located in the multi-storey car park, which is directly adjacent to the main pedestrian entrance. Best practice in disabled car parking standards. It gets a bit technical now. I don't exactly understand it, but the standards were taken into account in the design of the site, specifically British Standard 8300/2009, design of buildings and their approaches to meet the needs of disabled people, sets out that the access routes on level ground should have resting places not more than 50 metres apart for people with limited mobility. We have provided level services and benches in this area to provide for resting opportunities in compliance with the British Standard guidance. However, having received your comments, we are now implementing a temporary solution that will provide better access during the building of phase 2 of the redevelopment. And I think your point is that they're not in the right place. In which case I will look into that for you.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary related to the answer?
Yes, but as I suffer from MS and fatigue, and could my wife asked that question.
Okay.
No, thank you.
Thank you for your response, Simon. I'm representing Graham's wishes to ask this question, which at the crux of it is about maintaining his fitness, which is vital for his rehabilitation and therapy, to maintain some sort of independence and fitness and well-being. The supplementary question is around facilities now, in the interim with the new build, and in the future of the new build, if available. So now, Graham has a concern that there is no current pick-up and drop-off space or covered, sheltered resting places in an appropriate place. The new spaces are adjacent to the rear of the building, adjacent to some old benches that are not covered, and there's nothing in between. We would also, Graham would like to know what consultation has happened with people with disabilities with protected characteristics under the legislation you referred to with regards to new facilities in the borough. What detailed consultation has happened with them about the design of new build facilities? And that's the supplementary question.
Thank you. It's a very detailed question. I mislead you by giving a false answer, so I'll get a written reply, probably from another department of the council.
Personal meeting, I think.
Sorry, if I may just ask.
Look, you've asked the question, he's going to give you a written answer.
Yeah, can I just make a point though, Mr Mayor,
Oh, very
that with regard to the written answer, could that also be circulated to the members, please?
It's in the minutes of the council meeting.
Thank you.
Okay. Caroline Smith, is she here? She is?
Yes, I'm here.
Hello, there she is. To Ms. Bowling.
Yes, I'd like to ask the question stamping my name. Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you for your question. The long-awaited Woking Marketplace Environmental Improvement Scheme is an exciting investment in the future vitality and viability of this beautiful town. This scheme is a joint enterprise by Woking Borough Council and Woking Town Council, which implements part of the vision set out by the adopted town centre master plan. The town is currently undergoing growing pains. However, I can assure you that the end product will not only help revitalise the town, but will do credit to this exceptional place. Any temporary damage to the local economy is a real concern to us. However, it was primarily to invest in the economy and vitality of the town that we commenced this project. I feel that free parking after 3 p.m. is a real benefit to shoppers in the lead up to Christmas, and there are therefore no considerable plans to extend free parking further. However, I will be making an announcement later concerning weekend parking. We will continue to monitor matters and work with shops and businesses during the remaining construction period to understand the impacts from the 3 after 3 change, whilst also driving forward as many of the other initiatives raised at the recent business workshop held in the town hall.
Thank you very much. Do we have a supplementary to the answer, Caroline?
Yes, I do. Thank you for your response. I would like to present this question. Would the councillors be prepared to take up a 50% pay cut for the foreseeable future, because that is what the retailers of Wokingham are experiencing due to the works being done on behalf of Wokingham Borough Council and the town. Other than relaxing parking further, what more can you do to help us all? Thank you.
There's considerable work going on following the meeting of October 25th. The plans that we've set forward have been circulated to all retailers in the town. We're doing everything we possibly can to help keep footfall up and to keep retailers solvent, particularly in the period up to Christmas. That's why we brought in the free after three, and other measures are also being put forward to help out. I hope they will be successful to retailers.
Thank you very much. We have Helen Powell in the house, please. Chris Bowling, again, busy tonight, Chris. Brevity order.
You need the spectacles, Chris.
Another one for you, Chris.
Thank you.
Local residents are becoming increasingly concerned about pedestrians trying to cross Monument Lane to get to and from Lidl. This is very dangerous, and they have seen pedestrians stranded in the middle of the road, unable to complete their crossing due to fast and busy traffic. Will you look into providing a safe place for pedestrians to cross on Monument Lane by the legal store?
Thank you very much for your question. I had the pleasure of meeting some residents in Holmes Crescent a few weeks ago on this very subject, so I'm familiar with your concerns. I can confirm that the safety of our residents is a high priority for the council, for me in particular. And if, as you say, people are having difficulty crossing a road, then we'll happily look into it to see what we could do to provide help. I know there are a lot of elderly people in Oaklands Drive and that area with a care home as well. This is how it works. If the crossing is indeed the solution, then the type of crossing we can provide will be subject to ensuring the design needs, or the design meets all the regulations in regard to design standards and safety considerations. Once this has been agreed, the facility will only be provided if appropriate funding is available. Pedestrian crossings can be relatively expensive. For example, the new traffic light control crossing could cost in the region of £65,000. Council only has a limited amount of funding available, so we'll need to consider the need to provide something in this location over the other schemes that may also be competing for the same funding. So to confirm, I have already instructed our traffic management team to investigate the issues in this location and respond to me, and I will return their findings to you as soon as I receive them.
Do we have supplementary?
We do, thank you. Thank you, and we look forward to seeing some progress, which is promising. I do have a concern that about the funding. You're saying it may be stalled because there wouldn't be funding. There seems to be plenty of funding for other projects to go ahead in the town centre. And I would ask, do we have to wait for a terrible accident before anything is done here in that case?
Well, we respect that's not the prejudging the issue. We need to look at the Monument Lane, the point where you want to crossing. And we do have a limited budget. We have to take care of council taxpayers' money, so naturally we have restricted funds for all the projects in the council. And we do, in particular, need to look at those areas where there are safety problems. Even if there's a safety problem in Monument Lane, there may be worse problems elsewhere. We're going about Church Lane early. I have another question, I believe, later on in the agenda. So we do have to be proportionate in making these decisions.
Thank you very much. I don't think Guy Branson is here, is he?
Mr. Mayor, if I may, Guy sends his apologies and that he has an illness that was brought up to him this afternoon, and he has requested that I ask the question standing at his name.
That's fine, but there won't be a supplementary.
That we fully understand.
Okay. So do you like to ask the question now?
Basically, I'd like to ask the question standing in Guy's name.
Well said.
Thank you. Well,
Mr. Mayor.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. This is a very distressing story of a young PhD student who lost his life on Church Road, and riding his bike he was hit by a pedestrian. It was not his fault. and I had the privilege of meeting the family last week to extend my condolences to them and repeat that this evening. Council has played a part in the inquest into Ben's death and has fully considered the coroner's report. This report did not indicate that a dedicated crossing facility would have prevented the tragic incident. However, a senior traffic management engineer who was a witness of the inquest accepted that there was no reason why Woking Borough Council could not investigate an additional pedestrian crossing facility across Church Road. We are now in the process of commissioning a survey and study to do this. As part of the feasibility assessment of a crossing, the Council will consider the accident records. These do not indicate any pedestrian injury trend at this particular crossing point, as there has been only one other incident, aside from the fatal accident, in 5 years, which occurred on the other side of the junction. The study will also need to consider the impact of potential additional delay to other traffic using the junction due to the need to add an additional all-red pedestrian phase. This could in turn lead to longer delays to traffic, which might, as a consequence, divert onto less suitable routes, causing safety concerns elsewhere. Once the Council has the results of the study, it will be able to determine if any safety improvements or pedestrian facilities should be put in place.
Thank you very much. Do we now have Rachel Perth in the house? If we do, would you like to ask a question?
Can I ask a question standing in my name?
Thank you very much indeed. And that again is Barry.
It's Mark. The bridge across, thank you for the question, that was me. The bridge across the Windsor Lines at Townhouse Crossing is a temporary structure put in place by Network Rail to enable the closure of the grade crossing that forms part of the public right-of-way across the allotments and playing fields. Network Rail has a policy of closing the railway crossings as this reduces risk. As and where there are solutions to reduce risk, Network Rail is required to address them. The impact of not closing the crossing is increasing journey times on the railway due to speed restrictions such as that at Smith's Farm user worked crossing. The crossing of the North Downs line has been a bridge with steps for the last 80 or so years, and as such residents have also had to negotiate steps on the public right-of-way. The statement from Network Rail saying that the temporary bridge will be removed once the council install permanent solutions is misleading. It's not the council's responsibility to provide the bridge, and there are currently no plans or budget to do so. The council are, however, working with Network Rail and have signed a memorandum of understanding to develop a solution that is inclusive and value for money. Initial estimates of the cost to replace the two bridges with a single span bridge run into several £1 million for a very basic inclusive structure. As yet, no funding has been identified by Network Rail or the council for this project to be programmed.
Thank you very much. Do you have a supplementary?
I do. Thank you very much. So can I ask what steps the council is taking for resolving this with Network Rail to make sure the bridge is put in place for residents?
Right, so we do not have any budget at the moment, so that's a matter which will be for the future. I'm sure we continue to have meetings with Network Rail to discuss the matter. It would be nice to improve matters, but I can't promise anything at the moment.
Thank you very much. Please, Mr. Simon Cooper, again, a question for Chris Barron.
Good evening. On the matter of speeding in Gravesend, can I ask the question standing on line, please?
Thank you, Mr. Cooper. As part of my response to your previous question at our last council meeting in September, I explained that the responsibility to enforce the existing 40 mile/hour speed limit lies with the police as the speed enforcement agency. The 40 mile/hour speed restriction is the limit, and drivers should drive to the appropriate speed for traffic, road conditions and weather along the route they are travelling at any given time. Although the council and the police consider the 40 mile/hour speed limit appropriate for this location, the council had recently installed mobile speed limit reminder vehicle for activated signs that should encourage motorists to keep their speed to below 40 miles per hour. We also agreed to undertake additional speed surveys in both directions within the village. The results of the recent surveys now show that the average speed northbound was 25.2 miles per hour and southbound was 37.8 miles per hour. This was over a 7-day, 24-hour period. This data is well within the expected tolerance levels of the 40 mile per hour speed limit. While not all the vehicles were travelling at these speeds at all times, these figures do indicate that the average motorist is adherent to the speed limit. It should also be noted during the busy school times, the speed limit is further reduced through the village on the approach to the school to 20 miles per hour, which is legally enforceable by the police. I'm aware that an officer from the traffic management team has recently met with you where you challenged the location of the survey, that it is the approach into the village from Lambeth Hill that is the area of concern, and therefore the council have agreed to undertake a further traffic and speed count. And I'd be very happy to meet with you and members and officers from Sheffield Parish Council possibly to ensure that we are talking about the same place. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a supplementary?
Just to say thank you very much. I very much welcome that.
Thank you very much. Rachel Burgess has a question for Charlotte Horton-Taylor.
Thank you. In relation to agenda item 53 regarding members' allowances, I would like to know why councillors deserve an additional £100 to cover increased parking charges which they themselves approved, leaving residents, visitors and workers in Woking to foot the bill. Is it fair that Woking's taxpayers will pay twice for their own parking and for those of the councillors?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you very much for your question as well tonight. Despite what some councillors have been claiming in the public arena, this report here tonight has been put forward by Woking Borough Council taxpayers who are not councillors, but just ordinary members of our community who are volunteering their time to sit on the independent remuneration panel. This is not a panel that councillors sit on. This item will be presented by the chairman of the IRP, Tom Burnham, later on in the meeting tonight, and I hope that he'll be able to give you some clarity over the thinking behind all of the recommendations, and in particular the one which I know that you're interested in, the proposal to give members the extra £100 to cover the increased parking charges. This item will then be debated by all of the parties after the presentation by the chairman, and I hope that it will then become clear what individual members' views are on this vote.
Thank you very much. Charlotte, do you have a supplementary?
Yes. Could I ask then, as car parking charges have recently been waived before 3 o'clock, whether you think we should still get an additional £100?
Thank you. I cannot preempt how members will vote on this matter tonight, and I hope you will stick around for listening to the debate and how people will choose to vote after listening to the chair of the IRP.
Thank you very much. And Keith Malvern, again. Good evening, Keith.
Good evening,
Charlotte.
Mr. Mayor. I'd like to ask a question, which is a very short one, which is in my name, which to the leader of the council. Can I say how pleased I am that there are as many people? There are only 10 apologies for councillors this time, 15 in the last council.
Can you ask a question?
Well, before I do that, just to say, I'm surprised no member of the council. I'll come back to the budget consultation. Nobody else has mentioned it.
Hang on a minute.
I do the advert as well.
This is public question time.
Yes.
You were a councillor here for many years. You know how it works. So please don't do that. Ask your question to the leader of the council, who's waiting there to give you an answer, and you will also be allowed a supplementary. Please stick to the point that you want to make to the leader of the council. Thank you.
You've got the question.
Thank you, Mr. Mulvern. I've got the question in front of me. So, the investment in the commercial properties will provide much needed income to the council in the context of the very severe austerity that we've been facing for many years, indeed since 2008, and of course the huge reductions in government grants. I think it's worth mentioning that in 2019 to 20, this council will be going into what's called negative RSG, Revenue Support Grant, which is where an extra approximately 7.2 of our business rates will be collected and sent to central government to be redistributed to other councils around the country. So in this context, the escalating costs of our services, our statutory services, this strategy is set to increase our income to the council, and this income will be used and made available to help with all of the services around all of our priorities. So it will be used for everything from improving our educational attainment and focus, focusing on every child achieving their potential, right through to improving the customer experience when accessing our council services. So the underpinning principles set out in our council agenda and printed on all of our agendas on the front page, as you will be familiar with, I'm sure, is to offer excellent value for your council tax. And our increasing commercial strategy is intended to achieve just that.
Thank you very much, Charlotte. Do you have a supplement based on the
Straight enough, I do, and thank you very much
I'm very pleased to hear it.
for referring to this part of our vision, our priorities. You, just for the sake of completeness, you didn't include two of the priorities, which is ensure strong, sustainable communities that are vibrant and supported by well-designed development, and secondly, tackle traffic congestion in specific areas of the borough. So in answer to my specific question, which is, are any specific priorities, you make clear that there are no specific priorities. I have a difficulty with the proposal in 52.
Your question?
My question is the thing that's going to have a question mark at the end. While the council...
I know the question, there's a question mark at the end. I'm just saying, will you please read it out?
I've just started.
I can't see it from here.
It goes from here to here. While the council is keen for me to support local businesses, and that's been referred to here, and I try and do that, if this proposal, which is nonsensical and is a mistake, does go ahead, will the council be in a position to identify where the investment will be made? So as a shareholder in Wokingham Borough Council, I will be able to see how I can help our investments elsewhere. Do you understand the question? I thought it was quite good.
That was the question. Do you have an answer, Charles?
I was slightly confused by the question. Yeah, I'm rather confused by the...
Do you need any assistance? I can...
I might need a little bit of clarification, but I think the essence of it is will the investment strategy be investing in all of the vision and the principles and underpinning principles and priorities of our council tax?
No.
Will you, as a council taxpayer, be able to influence where that money is being spent in terms of investment?
No, that's not the question.
So can I ask, please could you put your question and in writing to me, and I will give you a written response.
You can do it.
And then we will understand each other and we'll get a better response back. Thank you. I'm sorry.
I'm happy to go back to the question.
I think that I gave you lots of opportunities to ask the question. I think, and you've asked us something, and the leader's answered you, so I'm sorry, it's time to move on. Thank you very much indeed.
You've done very well. But don't forget budget consultation, everybody. Please contribute to it. No
please, otherwise we'll have to close the meeting if we carry on like this. Right. Do we have any petitions this evening? We do have one. Would you like to introduce that? You have 1 minute, sir.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen of the council.
I forgot to introduce you, didn't I?
My name is Clive Chafer.
Okay, Clive, thank you.
2 months ago, I started a petition after there was an outpouring of discontent on the bulletin board next door. This petition asked the council for a radical rethink of the traffic arrangements in the town centre. Within days, it had 500 signatures. It now has over 1,900 supporters. This is not just regular bellyaching about how difficult it is to get around in Wokingham. This is a notice that the status quo cannot continue. It is a cry of pain and outrage. And I commend you to read the comments that are attached to this petition so that you'll understand. Finchampstead Road is already well over capacity, with over 2 miles of standing traffic every morning and evening. And it now regularly grinds to a halt at 2 in the afternoon, all the way from the station to Molly Miller's Lane and beyond, even at weekends. In a few years, there will be an additional 1,200 to 1,500 vehicles added when the Southern Distributor Road disgorges at the Tesco roundabout, making a mockery of the nil detriment when no capacity will have been added to.
Excuse me, but the minute is up. You have a minute and you've spent it. Would you like to hand in your petition?
Given that most people have overshot their time already, I'd love to have another 30 seconds if I may, sir.
Well, I'm afraid you can't do that. Would you please hand in your petition? Thank you. We will take your petition. Thank you very much.
Thank you for your time.
Thank you. That brings us to the end of public question time. Well done to members of the public who actually helped us enormously there by asking questions standing in there. Thank you very much indeed. And I'd like to invite you to now. Can I then say the members of the public are now free to leave, unless you want to stay and enjoy the evening. If you want to stay, you can go to the front gallery. It's free. Okay, thank you members. I see we have two members of the public in the chamber. Are you two planning to stay? You cannot debate.
I need 7 days notice.
You cannot debate, but you can stay. Unless you're upset. It's fine. Okay, one point I just want to bring to your attention, members, under the Mayor's announcements, and it's to do with members to purchase a copy, if you would, please, of the Christmas picture quiz at a cost of at least £2. I emphasise the word at least £2, from which all the proceeds will be donated to the Royal Berkshire Hospital Cancer Support Group. And I would ask and urge every member to participate. And when I was certainly written to the officers and asked them to do exactly the same. So if you can do that, I would just thank the hard work actually, which Neil, sitting next to Anne, puts into this quiz. My wife had to act as a tester about a month ago for the questions, and she found it very difficult, Neil. You don't know where you get the questions from. Would you please support £2 or more per head? I also intend to send out via email, I'm not going to speak of it tonight, some ideas I have for a function in the spring. I'm not going to talk about it now, but what I am going to say is it will come on your emails on Saturday. And I'm asking you for an answer, a rapid response, which will help me to judge the way forward. So I know you all get hundreds of emails. I've formed the computer all day long today myself. But if I could ask you this special occasion just to send me a yes, no, etc. That would be great. Everything I'm doing here is just raising money or cancer charity? Right, okay, and moving on now. Just before I do move on, I just want to say I've got to. I went to Twyford last night to see the new vicar installed in Twyford. And I thought what a fantastic, you were there, was it? I thought what a fantastic occasion that was. I've never seen that before. The Bishop of Reading was there. He blessed me as well. And it took some thinking about, didn't it? But it was a fabulous thing and a great privilege to actually represent all of you and the whole community in that wonderful occasion. The mayorship is a very unusual job, and you get to do things you never ever thought you'd ever be able to do or ever want to do, and you get to meet the most amazing places and the most amazing people. But it's quite hard work because you rarely stop. And I had an amazing amount of visits to old folks' homes. They still talk about podcasts. You used to like that, to that.
I'd like you to have stayed one.
and I've opened a few apartment blocks, and they all see me as a potential customer and try to sell me an apartment while I'm there. But that's something to do with the age, I think. But it's a great privilege. And if you would give me a view on the documents I'm about to send you about the February occasion, I'd be grateful to every one of you. And that's right across the house, please. All of you. Okay? That's not political. This is entirely humane. It's something I'm considering doing. Okay, where are we? Item 52, members, which is the property portfolio and investment strategy. And I think it's going to be proposed to you by Oliver Dewar. Oliver.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. We're taking steps to mitigate the adverse effect of negative revenue support grant in 2019-2020. And one such measure is to build a property portfolio to provide a steady and long-term income for the council. The proposal is to borrow up to £100 million to invest in two types of property: to develop council-owned land and the purchase of or development of income-generating or resaleable property assets. To fund this, the council will borrow from the Public Works Loan Board and from the sale proceeds of property within this portfolio. The cost of borrowing will be covered by investment income, so there is no cost to council taxpayers. Indeed, there will be income over and above the interest charges, which will contribute towards the council's income. A panel of professionals will supplement the council's own experts in identifying potential investment opportunities and analysing their suitability. Any investment decisions will be taken by the Director of Corporate Services in consultation with the Leader of the Council, the Executive Member for Finance, and the Executive Member for Business, Economic Development and Regeneration. They will be reporting to the executives. With these measures in place, we are confident that we can make secure and responsible investments that will provide a net income stream to help to meet our severe financial challenges we face ahead.
Thank you very much. Do we have a seconder? Stuart? Now, do you want to speak now or do you want to hold for a moment?
May I just add now that...
You're speaking now?
If I may,
Yeah.
Mr. Mayor, just to say that in adding to what Councillor Whittle said, I have read